and welcome to Islander Sewing Systems. My name is Janet Prey, and I'm here to do a demonstration for you on how to make and use flounces. But before we do that, I'd just like to explain a little bit about Islander Sewing Systems. So what we have available to teach is great methods that come directly from garment factories, where people have learned the very best way to put something together, as well as the fastest and easiest. And so we don't even use pins or basting. And you'll see that in all of our lessons on YouTube. You can watch some of those and see how it's done. We also have online classes that include information about how to sew that way. And when you make a garment the construction way that we're showing you, it comes out excellent every time. It never looks homemade. The other things that we have to offer are fitting slopers. So we have acquired all of the intellectual property from Connie Crawford. Connie taught at FITM in California, as well as a pattern drafter for designers in Southern California. So she had a lot of professional information to impart, as well as she wrote the textbooks. So she wrote the textbook on drafting, and that's where we're going to get our information from today. But we have that, as well as the fitting slopers, which is a pattern that you use to get the perfect fit on your body. Then you can translate all that information to every garment you make and know that every garment you make is going to fit. So that's pretty exciting too. We've got lots of great stuff. We invite you to visit our Facebook page or our website, islandersewing.com, and our YouTube channel. I hope to see you there. All right, let's take a look at some flounces before we make a flounce. This one has a lot of flouncing. The cuffs are flounces, and certainly down the button placket is another very full flounce. You can get really full, ruffly flounces on very soft fabric like this one. So this is a burnout velvet. So it is soft enough that you can really get voluminous ruffling. But don't mistake flounces for ruffles, because they're made entirely differently. So then there's this one, and it has a very minimal flounce, just to trim the bottom of the sleeve on this beautiful, sleek, minimalist silk top. I love this look, and it's effortless, very simple to make, but with just that little style added to it. So let's make some flounces. Oh, one more thing I want to talk about is, if you're not sure the fabric is soft enough to make a flounce, then do a sample. So that's what I did here. I'll lay this down, but it automatically, by grabbing it up on the corner, it's just going to automatically fall in these undulating curves. And that's what makes it so pretty. It's a very feminine look. Okay, so we knew that fabric was soft enough. Now, we're going to talk about the formula for making a flounce. So you're going to measure the area that flounce is going to be sewn to. And then you're going to use that measurement, subtracting 1 inch and then dividing by 6. Now, write that down. So, and you can rewind this, so that's great. But in this particular case, I'm going to demonstrate this one. It's a 17-inch neckline. So I'm going to subtract 1, divide, and that would make it 16, and then divide by 6, which comes out to 2 5/8 inches. To make a flounce, you're going to start with a piece of paper to make your pattern. And this one is about 12.5 by 12.5. The size of the paper depends on the size of your flounce. And make a few samples in paper and some scrap fabric to really get the idea. So I have folded that sheet of paper in 4s. And I'm going to start at this corner where it's folded here and the 2 folds are here. We don't want to start over here where there is no folds. Okay, so now we know we're going to start with 2 5/8. And that is, again, the area that this is going to be sewn to. So we know it was 17 inches, and then we used the formula to get just the right length. So now, if you can see, I'm measuring 2 5/8 to make the circumference that this needs to stitch to. So we're just going to work our way around making dash marks 2 5/8. You may have another way. You can always use a pencil and a string. You can use a compass. There are many ways to do this, but it must be 2 5/8 in order to match where we want to sew it to. Okay, so there is our 2 5/8. Okay, now the next line we're going to make, as we can see, this one, that is up to you how far down you want that. It's because that's going to be the width of your flounce. So I'll just go down here. Of course, again, I could only go as far as 3 because of my paper constraints. But I'm going to do 2 1/2. So 2 1/2, measuring from this cut line so that we know it's a 2 1/2 inch flounce. Now, keep in mind, you may want to do some type of hem on here. Usually it would be just a rolled hem. Sometimes really pretty little laces added to the edge, which will make it a little bit wider. So you want to keep all those things in mind when you decide what width you want. And again, samples make all the difference. And let me tell you, I make samples all the time. So, for instance, I've got one right here. This is a sample I made for a double flounce and as a cuff of a sleeve. And I like it, and I like the 2 different widths. So now I know I can put that into my next garment. So we're going to cut on both of these lines. Now, when you cut in at the fold, make sure you're cutting in at a right angle. Sometimes it's real easy to just cut in at a little bit of an angle, and that's going to give you little points on your circle. So we're just going to cut along this. And again, I'm making the pattern. And see, I'm coming right straight off at the edge, so I have a nice smooth circle with no points. Okay, so we made our flounce. We know that this inside is going to match to that 17 inch we want to stitch it to. So we're going to cut it on one of the folds so I can show you what the flounce pattern, and you can see this is what happens in paper. So in fabric, it happens a lot more. But this is the edge that's going to stitch around that neckline or cuff or wherever you're putting your flounce. So here is one that I cut out. Oh, but we did not cut it open yet. So let me cut it open. Now, as you can see, it's falling in those beautiful ruffly look. Now, that's not all there is to flounces. There's a lot more. You can just make a whole bunch of these and sew them together to create that ruffled look. The one thing to keep in mind is, and this is the way I usually make the pattern, you cut it in half, and you put it on the fold. And the distance here, the more shallow this is, the more ruffle you're going to get. So that 2 5/8, that gives me a nice circumference to create a lot of ruffling. So if you're not getting enough ruffling, you may want to consider just making this a tighter curve. And then you'll have the ruffling that you're looking for. Now another thing you can do is you don't have to make it curved. You can play around with all kinds of shapes as long as you leave this curved and you get the right distance. Then you could turn this into squares and have little points, get a really dramatic look. You can add any kind of trim, and you can do a rolled hem, just lots of different things. But I just really encourage you to make samples, because that makes all the difference in the success of your project. So many times we go buy this beautiful fabric we love, and we get a pattern, maybe we don't know that pattern maker that well, and we sew it up with great enthusiasm only to find out it does not represent what we thought we were going to get. It could be the pattern, it could be the fabric, could be the sizing, who knows. So that's why we always do tests. That's very important. Thank you for joining me on the demonstration on how to make flounces. I hope you have lots of fun with it. Enjoy the flounces. Please visit us again at islandersewingsystems.com. Happy sewing.